Great, big time. So
You're good.
We're good?
Yep.
Yeah.
there we go.
Look at that.
Yeah,
We are
so-
good to go.
Well, welcome viewers to our third session here around pillars of health, the 6 pillars. I'm here with Donna Schauber, and she's here with to the core Pilates and nutrition. So welcome back. I'm excited to go through tonight's subject, but I just reflecting. I believe our first session was about purpose and all those pieces, and then last one was around the environment and how that can affect you. And then so what are we going to talk about tonight?
Today we're talking about relational health.
There we go.
And so during one of our previous sessions, we kind of alluded to this because they all do affect each other, right? So it doesn't matter whether we're talking about purpose or we're talking about environment, it's going to affect every other pillar that we're discussing. So we may kind of touch back on some of the things that we've already spoken about, but then go a little more in depth with them,
Sure.
just because you can't have one without the other.
There you go.
Right, so that just works that way. So relational health is all about building relationships, right? And creating those really strong support systems. So whether that's your family, whether it's your friends, it can be your work environment, all those relationships that we have a profound impact on our health because they affect our physical health, they affect our emotional health, right? They affect our mental health and our mental well-being. And when we have those great relationships, it also affects our resilience, our ability to trust, our self-esteem. The list really goes on and on. And so it was interesting because one of my kids stopped in to say happy birthday to my husband today. And we were talking about this and saying, it's interesting when you talk to people about their relationships, how much of a difference there is. And when you stop and have those discussions, often the people that are having the most issues when it comes to their physical and mental health also don't have strong relationships, or they're missing a piece in that environment, right?
Yeah.
And so it is very interesting when you start to dive into the relationship piece, how deep of an impact it can have.
Right.
So we're going to talk about a few different things. So the first thing is that really strong relationships build trust. And we know that trust is really key to keeping those relationships. It's like when somebody lies to us or breaks our trust, right? And what can happen to that relationship. And not what only can happen to that relationship, but what happens to our mental health when somebody breaks that trust, right? And that can be, again, it can be through a personal relationship, a family relationship, it can be through a friendship, it can be through a work experience. But when that trust is broken in those relationships, we end up with loneliness with that lack of trust. We have higher stress, a greater level of anxiety, right, that can be associated with it, and also poorer health outcomes in the long term. Having those trustful relationships are really what help us to build that ability to have better mental health and to have less anxiety. And if I have a friend that I can go and have a conversation with and I can trust them with the things that mean more to me, right? And they're not going to go and just tell the world all the things that I have told them. Does that make me a safe place to land? Yes. Right. So the first part is about building trust. The second part is because strong relationships encourage growth. I know for me personally, I wouldn't be where I am in my business and in the things I do if it weren't for the fact that my husband fostered that growth. He made it possible for me to do that and did whatever steps he needed to take to make sure I had the space in the room to be able to learn, to grow, and to create what I wanted to create. And then the best thing is on the opposite side of that, I was also able to do the same thing for him. And so we took turns, right, providing that growth and that ability to learn. So when we encourage growth in other people, then again, we're looking at mental, emotional, and physical health has a massive impact when that happens. And when we create that nice growth piece in a relationship, then we also can create really great habits, right? If somebody is standing in your way of being able to grow, it's hard to create good habits.
Sure.
Right? So if, say for example, every time I wanted to go out and go for a walk or go to the gym, my husband said, really, do you need to go? Is that supporting my growth?
Right.
Is it supporting my health? Is it supporting? No, not really. And is it fostering great habits for me? No, not really. But if he is sitting there and saying, yeah, it's a great idea. Did you call someone and see if they can go with you? Does that foster my growth? Yes, right? And it also fosters me building really strong habits. So my relationship or our relationships with those people around us can really push us in a direction, or they can hold us back from doing the things that we need to do to keep ourselves healthy, right? And then the last piece of it is fostering resilience. And resilience decreases stress. That's probably one of the biggest things for people right now. We live in a really stressful time. Everybody has high stress, right? But when we have strong relationships, it helps us to have better coping strategies. When, let's say for an example, I've had a really hard day, I can call up one of my girlfriends and say, you know what, let's go for a walk. And probably by the end of her day, she's thinking, I could really use some fresh air, I need to clear my head, right? But by us going and doing it together, maybe we're not even talking about all the things that happen during the day, but just that support system gives us coping strategies, right? And it helps us to build resilience within our days because we already know that there's somebody else that can help take some of the load if we need somebody to take some load, right? It gives us a really strong sense of belonging. And that's huge for our mental health. And again, to build resilience. And then the decrease of anxiety and depression as well happens when we build resilience. So those three pieces are really the biggest parts of building those strong relationships.
Right.
Yeah. So you probably also have some of those relationships that are really strong, right?
Yeah.
That are those big support systems and have probably had some of those relationships in your lifetime that you can relate to and go, yeah, those weren't as supportive.
Yeah, 100%. I think what's interesting, I was making some notes here, but like, I guess for me, I can only speak for myself in this, but like, it's kind of your own journey through wellness, but it can sure, like, I don't know the best way to put this. You don't always need your partner, or in my case, Jamie, to be part of my health journey where we're going, but the support. Yeah, I think you said it really well, like the support, we support. So for us, we support each other really well in that journey, but we do our own different activities in a sense. But I think we've also been in a place many years ago where, I think we felt, I don't know if you have a piece of where you start to feel like kind of, I don't know, jealous, or you don't want to necessarily you're wondering if you're kind of going to be in the way, so you don't want to go, or you don't want to support your partner. And so then before you know it, no one's doing anything, I guess is my point, right?
Yes.
That's where I'm trying to go with it. So it's just very interesting because it's kind of your own journey, but it's really good to know or feel you're supported on that journey. Doesn't mean you're doing everything together, I guess. That's my experience anyways, right? Like, we don't have to do everything together. But we support each other. We're kind of each other's cheerleader, right?
Exactly.
That's what I can say, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. And I actually just had this conversation with somebody yesterday, with a gentleman that is interested in starting and coming to the studio and starting to do something different. And his wife comes, and he says, I'm not coming with her.
Yeah.
Like, automatically, I am not going with my wife. Like, that just wouldn't turn out well.
Right.
But other couples would love to come and do those things. But everybody is individual.
Yeah.
But it proves your point. You don't necessarily need your spouse to be there, or your person, whoever it is,
Sure.
right? It could be a best friend, it doesn't matter. But you don't need them there, necessarily standing beside you. You just need to know that they're encouraging you, that they're there for a support system, that they're there on that day where you're like, I don't really want to go for a run. I don't know why. It's late, do I wanna go, whatever. And they're there saying, you'll feel so much better when you go, right? I think you should still go, right? Instead of saying, yeah, you're right, here, have a chocolate bar.
Right, but you
Right.
can't put that responsibility on someone else either,
No,
right? But it's good to have that cheerlead. Anyways, I think it's just that can be an interesting situation, especially in like a relationship. I think, right?
Yes.
Is for people, it's probably a little bit more natural at times, maybe in a friendship kind of thing. Like people will cheerlead each other on maybe a little bit more in that regard. Sometimes relationships, it's like, I think that can be a barrier.
It can
I
be.
know it has been many times for us, and so anyways, that's just one note I kind of pulled out of that for sure.
Yeah, and I think that relationships go in phases a little bit too,
Sure.
right? Just depending on what the needs of your family are. If we're going to talk about a family relationship, right? When your kids are younger, are there different needs in your family? Yes. If you're starting a new job, are there different needs in your family? If you're starting a business, are there different needs? Yeah, of course there are. And so as there ebbs and flows to how this happens, like it really does change. And I think, if you talk about like a marriage, you're talking about when you first start, there's still a lot of figuring the things out.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
Right? And then as you grow, I think some of these things can become easier, and sometimes some of them can become harder because we just become complacent sometimes, so we don't really recognize that things are happening.
Mhm.
But I think we'll get into some of these things as we keep talking about it, but I think if you can have a relationship that's built on trust, one that's going to give you some growth, and then one that helps you to be resilient, then you've got a really strong foundation, no matter what the relationship is, right? And so those are kind of the base pieces, for me anyway. And when I talk to clients about it, that's the pieces that we're talking about, right? And if you don't feel one of these things, if you don't have any relationships where you feel like you can trust people, is your relationship getting weaker? Yes, right? If you're not feeling like people are supporting you and helping you grow and achieve things, is that leg a little weaker? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So, what are our benefits? What happens when we have a strong support system, right? So we talked about a couple of things. So the first one is a buffer against stress. It is amazing the difference. I have been a single parent, and I've also been not a single parent, right? And when you have that really strong support system, parenting is a totally different experience, let me tell you, right? And a big part of that is the stress factor really drops down a lot when you have two people that are doing the raising of the children instead of one. And it also gives you somebody to share all those life challenges with that we just kind of talked about, right? So when my dad passed away, I can't imagine having gone through that without the support of my husband and my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have been the same without them, right? And so for people that perhaps don't have those same kinds of relationships, you can see how not having that support system when it comes to a big challenge in your life could affect your health otherwise, right? And we kind of talked about this I can't remember if it was last time or the time before, but that a client of mine, her dad had ended up being alone after her mom had passed away, and how he got sick, right? All of a sudden, he doesn't have that person to help buffer the stress, to help with life challenges, all of those things, and his life gets weaker, right? Like that whole portion of his stability and his support all of a sudden is gone. And it's not like it's gone. He still has his kids and like all the people, but it's not the same when you've been married for 65 years, right? It's different. And so I think sometimes when we have those good support systems, it's hard to understand that not everybody does, right? And so those life challenges come up and we need those people around us. Having strong relationships helps with your coping mechanisms. Right? And it helps us to keep a more positive outlook on things. I know my husband's sense of humor is what keeps me on some of those days where oh my goodness, the stress is through the roof, he can lighten my load in a couple of comments, right? And to have that person that is that positive outlook for you sometimes when it's hard to have a positive outlook, I think is also important. Doesn't have to be your spouse. It can be a coworker that does that for you, right? It can be anybody. It could be your yoga instructor, right? But to have that person that is that one that helps you with those coping mechanisms and helps you to be able to change what your outlook is.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important part of having a good relationship, right? I think a good relationship or having a good relationship gives us a really strong sense of security.
Yes.
Right? You guys have been together for a long time, so you haven't been by yourself for a long time.
No.
Right? But those strong relationships and feeling secure, like there's always that person to come home to, there's always that person that is there. Knowing that person is there can just drop your anxiety down a couple of notches.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
I know. Like one funny little thing is Jamie will do this often to me every morning. And especially mornings where she maybe knows maybe I look a little off or not maybe as smiley or something's on my mind, and she'll see me come out of the bedroom and she'll just be like, "Did you put your handsome pants on today?" And that just turns me around right away. This makes me happy, right? Like sometimes, and that's what we need, right? Because we often have said it, or I know we say it all the time at home, but like you're talking about the stress and all the pieces, the body keeps the score.
Oh, it does. So
it keeps the score, right? And so it's amazing how you can feel when you're carrying all sorts of it heavy, like when you're feeling with anxiety and stress and things that are bothering you. And so I don't know, it's just we are still beings that need to be around people and need to communicate and be, I get it. There's extroverts and introverts, and I totally get that. But even the introverts, after a while, they need to talk to people, they need to be around, they need to communicate. Mm-hmm. Communication styles are different.
Yes.
But need to communicate, right? And we need that as people, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. When I tell people I'm an introvert, they typically will call me a liar. But I'm very introverted. I love my time and my quiet, and I can put out lots of energy and do what I need to do, but then it's like, hey, I'm done.
Yeah.
I need to crash and I need to not be around people.
100%. Right? We have different ways of recharging. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. And I think that kind of leads us into the next part, which is having strong relationships boosts your immune system.
Yeah.
And understanding how you play off of people keeps you from being burnt out. Mm-hmm. So if you're an introvert that needs that, I need the downtime, I need the time away from people, I need to recharge, I need to sit and breathe, and I need to, just do something on my own. I'm going to read a book, I'm going to have a cup of tea, whatever it might be. If you're not taking those times for yourself, because that's the personality style that you are you more likely to be weakening your immune system? Oh yes, 100%. Right? And it's shown that if we don't have those strong relationships, we don't understand what our communication style is, we are overdoing our relationships or underdoing our relationships, that it can affect our immunity. And isn't that interesting?
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? And so we actually had this conversation, it's a little off topic, but we had this conversation the other day at the studio, and somebody was saying, if anybody's sick, I sure hope they stay home. And I said, if your immune system's really strong, you don't have to worry about if the person sitting across from you has a little bit of a sniffle or a cold. Right. The stronger you keep your own health, the less anybody else's health has any effect on you.
Yeah.
And so the stronger we keep our pillars, the less likely our immune system is going to be compromised. And this is a huge part of that, right? If we're lonely, if we're suffering with anxiety, depression, we aren't feeling resilient, we don't want to leave our homes, right? Because we would rather just curl up in a chair and be by ourselves. Is someone who is dealing with all of that going to have a weaker immune system than someone who is getting up, going out, doing all the things, and feeling good and having a positive outlook each day, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
The person that is feeling more depressed, anxious, and having all that negativity and fewer good, strong relationships is always going to have a weaker immune system. Yeah. So it's a really interesting point. And so we were kind of talking about it earlier about, the healthcare system and the burdens on the healthcare system and how do we start decreasing the burden on the healthcare system? Well, if we build our immunity so our immune systems are strong by keeping our pillars strong, guess what? We don't get sick as often.
Yeah.
And then there's less burden on the healthcare system.
Yes.
So, side note.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Strong, and that's my plug for boosting your immune system. Part of having strong relationships decreases inflammation and decreases your blood pressure. So if you can imagine, you're stressed out all the time, you don't have anybody to bounce things off of, what happens? Blood pressure stays high, heart rate stays high, we're always tense, we're not breathing, we're not doing any things. And compared to somebody that has a strong relationship that can bounce the things off of people, drops them right down. Okay.
I never thought of that one, but yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because they can help you to decrease your stress.
Yeah.
And the higher your stress, the more likely your blood pressure is going up. Yeah. It's a cool correlation between the two. So, several years ago, I had a client that was on 3 different blood pressure medications, all at the same time. And her goal was to get off of her blood pressure medications. One of the things that she did was start working on her relationships. And it was amazing. Now, did she work on other things too? Yes. But over the span of about a year, she got off every single one of those medications. So can you get off of them by changing your pillars and changing your relationships? Yes, for sure. Yeah. So neat, eh?
Cool.
And I think sometimes we don't associate these things, right? Stress and high blood pressure. They are like best friends.
Yeah.
Right?
I believe that, yeah, for sure. I've been in moments where very, very high anxiety or stress. And I remember looking at my watch one time and I was like, 100 beats, like it's just high, 100 beats a minute. I'm shaky, like when you're that worked up and you're carrying that all the time, that can be hard on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so if you have that person and that relationship where that person can help change your attitude, bring you down, cheer you up,
right,
all of those things, and that's happening consistently, can help to lower those things.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And so when your blood pressure comes down, of course, your cardiovascular health improves. So when our blood pressure is high for too long a period of time, of course, it's really hard on the heart, and our cardiovascular health will decrease, right? So it is amazing how much a good relationship can improve your heart health. Not just because it's your heart, right? Like from an emotional standpoint, but because it affects how well your heart is functioning. Yeah, so we, it's like, but that person is my heart, or they're, you're the feeling part of the relationship, but then we also can associate it the other way from a physical health standpoint. Having somebody close by you also increases your lifespan. Having a good relationship can increase that lifespan. So again, if we talk about seniors, what will happen very often is one spouse will pass away, and very quickly after the other one will pass away. What has happened? What's the only big change that's happened in their life? They lost their life partner. So they've lost one huge leg off of their table. And then the other parts of their health will start to decline, and then they can pass away shortly after. So the stronger they have a support system outside of their spouse, right, the better their metrics are later. And it's actually interesting because it actually happens to men more often than it happens to women. So in those later years, if the husband passes away first, the women generally do okay. If the wife passes away first, the husband tends not to do as well on his own. Yeah. And they actually think that part of the reason for that is that women generally are more involved in the community. Not all, of course.
Yeah.
Like this is just a generalization,
Yeah.
right? So I don't want anybody to get mad at me because I'm generalizing. But women tend to be more volunteering in the community. They tend to maintain closer relationships the longer. You know, men tend to be more providers and look after the family, and tend not to look after their social health or their relationship health outside of their families as well as they do. And so very often that's why that happens, is they don't have those strong relationships outside of their family.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I mean, men work hard, right? Some of them, I know some of our friends that their spouses work in the oil field, they're gone, right? And they're away from home for long periods of time. And, you know, that doesn't leave them a lot of space.
No, I can see that.
To create those relationships outside of that. So, yeah, so important. When you have a strong relationship, you recover from illness faster.
Yeah.
Right? Having somebody to make you chicken soup.
Yeah.
Right? But because your immune system tends to be stronger, you also get over illnesses faster.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, even the visit in the hospital, or so like, you know, you see people visibly perk up instantly, right? When you visit. Yeah. So that makes total sense.
Yeah. People need people. Like, we're very social creatures.
We are.
Yeah, very social. Even those of us that are introverted and don't want to be social all the time,
Yes.
we're still very social creatures. And when we crave that, right, and we feel best when we do have some of that, we just need to know when to shut it off.
Well, but like again, that extrovert loves a group of people.
Yes.
Introvert may struggle with that, but values the one-on-one talking. Really, it's different.
It's different.
Values still a relationship, a
Yes.
discussion. That one-on-one, it's totally different. But doesn't mean they don't value people. It's just a different way.
It's a different way.
So understanding that's important. I think.
Yeah. I have very introverted kids too, and they all have very small circles, but they're incredibly close.
Sure, same type.
Right? They're very, very tight. They don't need the big groups. They just need to have those couple of people that are in their corner, right? And I mean, I get that from us. They got double whammies because both Jeff and I are like that. So yeah, but again, it's whatever works for you, as long as you have them.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how many of them there are. You just need to have them. And then a good, strong support system makes you feel respected, seen, and valued.
Sure.
Right? And that just automatically boosts your self-esteem, boosts your self-confidence, boosts how you see yourself. Right? If you're not feeling seen and heard, then it can have some negative consequences for your health. All right. All those make sense?
100%.
Some of them will surprising until you think about them.
Yeah.
So how do you build a relationship? How do you build relationship health? And the first one is communication. You have to be open to communicate with the people that are around you. And again, it can be your coworkers and creating good relationships with your coworkers. It can be creating good relationships with the other dads on the soccer team, right? Or whatever it is. But that those lines of communication need to be open so that you can actually create the relationship, right? And have that honest communication back and forth as well is a big part of that. Now, do you have to tell everybody all the things? No. Each relationship will have its own space and its own purpose, really. And I always say some relationships just have a time and a place, right? We need certain people in our lives for certain things, and then maybe they go away and that's okay, right? But in that time and in that space, they were a strong influence and they had a big impact on our health overall. And perhaps taught us a little something, right? Maybe we learned something from them that we wouldn't have known previously, and then our life is improved moving on. So communication is number one. I would say probably setting boundaries is one of the strongest things that you can do to build relational health. When I talk about setting boundaries, I use two different examples. My first one is when I started my business, I had very strong boundaries around my time. So at first my kids were little, and so It was only when they could come with me or when my husband could actually be there and have the kids with him instead. Otherwise, I wasn't working. The business was closed,
Yeah.
right? It was built literally around my kids. As they started going to school, my boundary was that they ate breakfast with me every morning. I got them on the bus or took them to school, and then I was there when they got home, period. And I might have had to go back to work later once Jeff was home looking after the kids. But my boundary was, for me personally, I need to be there when they leave, and I want to be there when they get home. And my whole business was built around that. So I'm a very family-oriented business, right? And that happens for my staff too.
Sure.
When my staff came and they had kids, the same thing applied to them.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect them to do what I would not do.
Right.
That's my boundary.
Yeah.
When my husband started his job, same thing. He had boundaries, right? I work Monday to Friday. I don't do evenings, and I'm not coming and doing inspections on the weekend because that's my family time.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of our businesses are very structured around the boundaries we set around our family.
Yeah.
And people will say, but you can't do that. But we did.
Yeah.
Twice. And it's perfectly fine, and it worked well for us. But I think when you don't set those boundaries, people will take you for granted.
Yes.
People will take advantage, right? One of my clients is a beautiful lady. She volunteers everywhere for everybody. And she's a huge volunteer in her church. But nobody else would step up and volunteer. So she was the one they always came to. And we had to have a conversation. She was stressed right out. So stressed. Because she had things going on with her kids, and they'd come and say, can you volunteer to look after us? Well, how am I going to do that with my kids? And balancing it all, she was so stressed out, she was getting sick all the time.
Right.
And she couldn't get healthy. So you're going to have to set some boundaries. Because people are taking you for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And when you set a boundary and say, my plate is too full, I'm sorry that doesn't work with my time schedule right now, or whatever it might be. The only people that are going to be upset with you for setting a boundary are the people that are stepping all over it to begin with.
Sure.
Otherwise, the people that love you and care about you and that are those strong relationships are going to step back and go, oh, you need, okay, no problem whatsoever. I'll go find somebody else, right? But the people that are, not allowing you to say 3 or 4 months are going to be a little cranky.
Sure.
Right? But boundary setting is a huge part of your health. So if I don't have one, and for me personally, everybody comes and says, well, Donna, well, that time in the middle of your day, I could book that in you could take me then, right? Well, then my family relationships start to suffer.
Yeah.
Because all I'm worried about is the business side of it, right? And so there has to be a balance there somewhere. And the more I let my family side go to build the business, then what happens to my stress levels? What happens to my anxiety? Am I running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to please everybody all the time? Do I have time to look after my own health if that's what I'm doing? And if we don't set those boundaries, where do you find the time to, well, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to do, if all you're doing is pleasing everybody else all the time? There have to be boundaries there somewhere. And especially if you're going to look after your health, there has to be a boundary somewhere.
Right.
Where you say, hey, mornings are mine, right? I'm going to get up and I'll go to the gym at 6 a.m. Or I'm going to go for a walk with my girlfriend 2 nights a week at 6 o'clock. That's when we're going, right? And having strong relationships allows that to happen because you have a person, if you're in a family, right? You have another person that can help you do that. Or friends or whoever it is that can help you do that. But if you don't set the boundary, the other pieces are never going to happen. You're never going to get the physical health, the emotional health. All those other pieces are never going to fall in line if you don't set boundaries to make them happen.
Right.
Yeah. It's easy to become a workaholic. Like, yep, yes it is.
I feel like this whole part is for me.
Not geared toward you. But I do, like I know so many people that work and work and work and work and work.
Yeah.
And when they come to me and they are starting to try and integrate physical activity or they're trying to change their nutrition, very often my response is, I don't think you're ready to do those things. I think maybe you need to work on setting up your environment a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
maybe we need to work on setting some boundaries first, right? Because if you can't put yourself first ever, and you can't make room for that or set any boundaries around when that's gonna happen, how long are you gonna be able to do the physical thing or the nutrition thing if you can't do that? If you can't set a boundary around, I am not gonna do any housework past 9 o'clock at night, which is for a lot of people very hard, because a lot of parents work all day long, 10-hour days, come home, spend the time you have with your kids, and the only time you have to do housework and laundry and all those things is at 9 o'clock at night. Right? But when do you stop? When do you sleep? Right? What do you do with your schedule? All of those things are based on setting boundaries. Right? And talking to your people so that you can. Boundaries is big.
Interesting.
Big relationship piece. And sometimes your boundaries can be set with your employers too, right? And maybe that's part of an interview process. Where somebody, I know I've had clients that say, I'm starting a new job, but when I go for my interview, I'm gonna say, I go to CrossFit twice a week, or I go to my Pilates class twice a week at this time. Can I still do that? Right? Can I take my lunch at that time so I can still do that? So I'm still looking after my health. And they may choose to take a job or not take a job because of that.
I can see that.
Right? Or, can I start a half an hour earlier in the morning so that I can leave in time so I can go and get my exercise in before I have to pick my kids up from the babysitter. Right? And I think from a relationship standpoint, if we talk about like a business model standpoint, if we want to retain our staff, right? If we want to keep them long term, and cut down on training costs and all those things, sometimes helping them to have those boundaries and helping them to be able to create those time schedules where they can look after their own health is also really important. And sometimes one of the biggest things that an employer can do for somebody, right? So although we talk an awful lot about the personal relationships, those relationships with employers and those count for a lot too. And helping people to figure that out.
So you were talking earlier, and I had boundaries written down and circled it. But it's one thing setting boundaries, I guess, in what's expected of you or whatnot. But I guess how can a person set boundaries around negative people that's affecting you? Like, do you have any suggestions or thoughts around that?
Do you have an example for me?
I don't know. I think sometimes you can get caught into a negative group or crowd that maybe is bringing you down a bit, and I guess creating those boundaries about how often maybe a person's hanging out with said crowd or something, like just any thoughts around that, I guess.
I think that kind of delves into a little bit of the morals and values that you have and that you hold, right? We are always told our kids, because they're, of course, as they're growing up, they're hanging out with some kids that perhaps are doing some things that aren't what we would like our children to be doing. And so we always have conversations about guilt by association. Right? And also about drawing a line in the sand. And where's your line? Right? And so your boundary might simply be, where is this line? So when I'm with those people that are being negative or that are having that negative influence on me, where's my line where it hits that point and I'm out? And they can know it's your line, or maybe they don't know it's your line. It doesn't really matter, right? If they know it's your line, one of two things will happen. Either they'll stop hanging out with you, or maybe they'll start changing their behavior, right? Those are kind of the two things that could happen. Or you don't tell them it's your line, and then you just say, see, I'm trying. I'm going to bed now, right? Or I'm leaving because I have something else going on. But I think a lot of that, when it comes to negativity and people that are kind of sucking you in that direction, is being a little stronger in your own values.
Okay, that's because I've done that personally. I have definitely some peers in the co-op system, not here, but like throughout when you go to different conferences with other CEOs, and there's definitely a group that I've kind of picked up that I can get caught up in their negativity. So over the years, I just be cordial and say hi, but I'm definitely not making a point of spending time, because I've started catching myself get really negative, and I'm getting negative about certain things, and I don't need to be around this, right? And just catching myself. So even just catching those moments, like nothing bad's happening, just negativity or negative towards situations or issues that are happening in the world, and I don't need to be caught up in that kind of thing, and that kind of mindset, I guess, right? So, yeah.
And I think you're really hitting a point where relationships and environment clash together, right? So in that environment, where is your boundary?
Yeah.
Right? And so you've decided, well, my boundary is I'm being cordial and I'm still talking to everybody, right? And I'll carry on conversations, but I have a limit. And then it's like, yeah, I can feel the negativity passing over my head. So somebody else I'm going to have a conversation.
Yeah, correct.
Right? But being aware that that's there and how that environment affects how you feel, right? How that relationship affects how you feel. And so that environment is affecting the relationship, right? So that's how those pieces start to play off each other a little bit. Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head on that one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that you can really build great relationships by being grateful, right? Having gratitude for the people that are around you. Are we gonna absolutely love like roses and flowers and all the hearts, everybody in our life all the time? Of course not, right? Sometimes we're gonna be disappointed with people, sometimes and being able to still be grateful for the fact that they are there is a huge part of being able to have strong relationships, right? And being able to build them. Because if every single time somebody does something you don't like, you're just like instantaneously negative, everything about them's bad, right? And you can't show gratitude for the things that are so good in most people, then you're not building good relationship health. Right? So the gratitude piece, I think, is important. We all go through highs and lows. We all have good days. We all have bad days. We go through a whole gamut of emotions in a day, depending on what has happened, right? And some periods of life are harder than others. So to be grateful for those things that you do have and the people that are around you, I think I have a regular gratitude practice. I do it every day. Generally in the middle of the afternoon, I just pause, right? I have my own rituals for the day, and part of that is being grateful. Right? So,
Cool.
Yeah. It's hard to be negative when you're being grateful.
That's a good point. I think it's easy for people to get to criticize other people too, right? And I don't know if it comes from a place of wanting to make yourself feel better, insecurities of it, so on, but it's very easy to criticize, and you don't know what that other person could be going through, why, or what they've done, or they made a decision and that's the action they've done, and they want to criticize, I wouldn't do it that way, or you don't know what they're going, what's happening, or the rest of the circumstances. Often we're finishing the stories and we're finishing this, the scenario in your head, and you don't know the whole story. And I don't think that's a healthy spot either, right? Like it kind of probably puts in not a great spot, and you can't. Yeah, that's cool. So, and I like that point. Like you can't be angry at someone when you're grateful, right? So that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of validity to we see the things in others and criticize the things in others that we subconsciously don't think about ourselves.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right? So we'll see those things and we'll comment on them on other people without realizing that you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
Which is where that pop column kind of black.
Sure.
Right? Where that kind of statement came from, right? Because you don't realize that you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
But you do notice it in other people.
Yeah.
Right. And so I try and remember that. And then when I catch myself if I'm being critical about somebody else, it's like, whoa. Hold up for a second. Right? Is this something that maybe I need to look at myself a little more clearly?
Yeah.
Right. And when you stop and do that, does it change how that relationship works? Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure it does.
100%.
Right? And open your eyes up to your relationship with yourself too, right? Because even though we've been talking an awful lot about the relationships with other people, the relationship with yourself matters too.
Sure it is.
Right? Like, how do you feel about yourself every day? Right? Are you happy with what you're doing? And are you able to have a positive perspective on life? And do you play off other people? Of course you do. But really, your relationship with yourself is probably the most important relationship that you can have.
Yeah.
Right? And the better and the more healthy each of your pillars are, the better your own relationship with yourself becomes.
Right.
So, and when you have stronger relationships outside of yourself, you can also build a stronger relationship with yourself because you feel supported, because you have trust, you have resilience, you're not feeling depressed and anxious all the time, right? You have a more positive outlook when you have strong relationships. So yeah, it all comes full circle by the time you're done. I find the old saying, and I know you probably heard this at one point or another, but you always put on your own oxygen mask before you put on someone else's.
Okay.
Right? So if you're flying, that's what they tell you.
Yeah.
Always put your own oxygen mask on before you help somebody else. Right? This is the exact argument I use for people about why they need a self-care and a health routine. Because if you do not look after yourself first, it will affect all of your other relationships.
Yeah.
Because you have to be strong and healthy for yourself in order to be strong and healthy for other people.
Sure.
And if you are pouring from an empty cup, or you haven't put your own oxygen mask on first, you are actually starting depleted in being able to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's so selfish, and I have all these things I need to do for these other people first. But you're actually stronger, more resilient, you're better at conflict resolution, you're better at so many things.
Yes.
When you look after yourself first.
Right.
And it's not selfish. It actually prepares you to be able to look after the other people in your life in a much better way, right? You think about a normal household, right? And you look at, I'm just going to take my role as an example, so I'll speak for myself, not for other people, but as a business owner, as a mom, right, I fulfill a lot of roles in my home on a day-to-day basis and have for 30 years, right? So if I am not looking after my health first and I get sick, something happens to me, who's doing all the things that I've been doing?
Right.
Nobody's doing all of those things, right? Am I as able if I'm unhealthy, my immune system's weak, I'm not a strong person, am I less able to be fully present, not be a stressed out mess every day, right? No, I can't have fantastic relationships if I don't put myself first.
Yeah.
And so having a self-care practice, and when I say self-care, people are like, oh, bubble baths and massages. No, your self-care practice is to go for a walk, to get your body moving, to fix yourself some nutritious food, right? Like those are part of self-care too. And so having that self-care practice for yourself is probably one of the most important things, again, you can do for your relationships. It's boundaries and the self-care part are huge, and then communication part.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, whatever their routine is, but you need something to help make you, help you feel better.
Yeah.
And whether that's the walking or a gym, or doesn't matter, but you need that, you need to put some time in yourself a little bit, and you can get a lot more out. It's kind of what I'm picking up anyways,
Yes.
right? And so, yeah, no, it's a good comment. Yeah, I think people, want to be the doers, but sometimes you got to take care of yourself, right? And
When you do look after yourself first, you're in a better place from a mental health standpoint too,
Sure.
from a physical, from all aspects of your health, to be able to look after those other people.
Right.
So, yeah. And then one of the other things is being present.
Yes.
So we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, because you said, what about these cell phones?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what damage is this doing? Well, cell phones currently and we'll just talk about cell phones, but especially if we look at our kids at the younger generation, they're struggling, a lot of them.
Yeah.
They're struggling with creating relationships. They're struggling with communication. I tried to hire a student to come and help in the studio. We're working on a project. And I needed them to make some phone calls. Trying to find a young adult between the age of 18 and 20 who would like to pick up the phone and actually talk to people is almost impossible. It was so hard. It was so hard. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That was the thing that they just, no, I can't pick up a phone and talk to people. This is a problem.
Yeah.
Right? But they don't. They spend, and again, I'm generalizing, so nobody get mad at me for generalizing, but we spend a lot of time on our phones. We spend a lot of time looking at our phones. We spend a lot of time texting. We spend a lot of time emailing on our phones. And our youth spend a massive amount of time on their phones.
Yeah.
What's one of the things that has increased substantially in our youth? Depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
It's big, right? Their mental health is failing. Part of the reason why they're struggling with mental health is because they're not building relationships the same way.
Right.
And so for them to sit and have a conversation like this, and make eye contact,
Yeah.
right, and actually go back and forth is hard.
Yeah.
My youngest went for a job interview, and he was the last person that they were interviewing. And I know the owner of the business, and I talked to her afterwards, and she said, "Your son's not looking at me when you have a conversation." Everyone else, because she's interviewing younger people, right? Everyone else was looking down, wouldn't look her in the face. Most of them had their phone turned up onto the table beside them, and they would be glancing at it. And she said, "Your son didn't even, his phone was nowhere to be found." She said, "I'm pretty sure he left it in the car." Everyone else had theirs sitting on the table,
Yeah.
right? And so he got the job,
Yeah.
right?
There you go.
But it's becoming a lost art for a lot of people.
Sure.
That ability to be present. Because if you had your phone in your lap right now and it's vibrating and there's little alerts coming up, it's really hard not to look at that sucker.
It is, yeah.
It's very hard, right? It's very hard once you start looking at it not to get pulled in.
Mhm.
But if you are sitting there and we're having a conversation and every single time it vibrates, you're looking down, checking, and then going, "Okay, now I can come back and talk to you."
Yeah.
How important am I in this relationship and in this
Right.
conversation? I'm not very important, right? And so if we treat the people around us like they come second to a piece of plastic, we're not creating good connection.
Sure.
Right? And so my kids, they're funny. They've created boundaries around phone use in their relationships. So because they have to, because they live on their phones. But they're also wise enough to know that they can't just live in their phones. So they have rules. When we sit down and we're at the table, same as in my home, there's no phones at my table.
Yeah.
They're not allowed at the table. If we're sitting and we're having a family conversation, there are no phones allowed at that conversation. No, you're not gonna go look up something on Google, whatever. We're sitting and having a conversation, right? And it allows you to be present,
Yeah.
and listen. But in a relationship, if that person is always here and you're trying to talk to them and they don't even look up and they don't acknowledge and they don't carry on the other half of the conversation, and maybe you get a how do you feel when you're on the receiving end of that?
Yeah.
Is that it doesn't feel good, right? And so do you feel seen? Do you feel heard, right? No, neither of those things. And so if you're not feeling seen and heard, is your relational health good? Nope. No, it's not, right? So I'm a little concerned about some of our youth and how their leg when it comes to their relational health is actually suffering because of that usage. But it's not just our kids,
Right.
right? It's so easy to get drawn in I'm just as guilty as anybody else. For years, I carried my business phone with me, and I'm of course checking it all the time. I gotta answer those people, and I gotta talk, like make sure that they're not feeling like I'm not providing good customer service, I'm not doing a good job, right? Because I'm trying to grow a business. And it was just overwhelming.
Mhm.
The best day ever, and also one of the most stressful days ever, was then when I got my own personal cell phone, and I no longer had that phone with me all the time. So stressful. Oh my goodness. But the stress decreased really quickly because I didn't have it attached to me all the time, and wow, was I even more present, right? And you don't realize it until you get rid of it. how damaging it is, right? And how damaging it is to the relationships around us. So that would be one of my other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to set boundaries, it's hard to do conflict resolution, it's hard to communicate. Like all the things that create a really good relationship are really hard when somebody is doing this in front of you instead.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know personally I can get sucked in pretty easily, but I really try to. It's funny, I'll be wandering around the office and, talking to one of the team members in the office, and something will come up, or like want to schedule something, and I'm like, I don't have my phone with me again. I try to always leave it at the desk for the most part because I don't want to carry it around all lunch. I'll see if I have time. Oh, no, I don't have it with me again. And I try not to be really my phone, but it's very easy to go down that trail or just get locked in after a while. And that's not fair to the other people we talk to. Right? And I get it. You're doing business or your work. Sometimes there's just a time when you have to, right?
Yeah.
For sure, it's part of it. But totally.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to get caught up sometimes with the people that are closest to us because we know they're going to love us regardless, right?
Yeah.
Like there's that unconditional love piece of this, right? Especially for kids or
Sure.
But if there's still damage there,
Sure there is, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I know even in conversations with our kids, we would say, if you're at work and you're dealing with a customer, are you on your phone at the same time as you're dealing with the customer? Well, no. Well, why not? Right? Why would you not that? Right? And so they're not on their phones when you're dealing with customers. All of them worked in retail. And so then why is it okay when we're having a conversation for you to be staring at?
Yeah.
What's the difference? Right? Well, there's no difference.
Exactly.
But the people that you're closest to, sometimes you take the most for granted, unfortunately, right? So yeah, I think if we're going to really build that relational health, those are probably our biggest ones. Yeah. And there's other things on the list, but I would say that those are the biggest ones because those ones lead into all the other things, right? Like if you don't understand what looking at the phone makes somebody else feel, then you probably keep looking at the phone.
Sure.
Right? So understanding how some of your actions make other people feel is also important.
100%.
Right? But it stems from the other ones.
Okay.
So yeah. Anything you think you want to add to that?
No, I think
you got any more questions for me?
Do we have any questions out there?
No questions out there? Yeah. So this is a quote from Mandy Hale. I like Mandy Hale. A healthy relationship will never require you to sacrifice your friends, your dreams, or your dignity.
That's good.
Pretty good relationship. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, relationships can be so beneficial or can be so hurtful.
Exactly.
It's so interesting how it can impact your health. From one end to the other. So being mindful of that, I think being mindful in my mind anyways, like those toxic fixer relationships and what you're putting yourself through if you're in something like that, knowing where you can try to find help and start the healing, right? And I like how you said it earlier, like being grateful, having gratitude. I want to, that's something I'm going to reflect on personally a lot, like having that gratitude for those healthy relationships, the people in your life that bring so much to you in health. That stands out a lot. Those are a lot of good learnings there for sure.
And this also takes us back to when we talked about environment last time. And we talked about you are the sum total of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most.
Yeah.
Those 5 relationships have the biggest impact on your health.
Yeah.
So again, how does your environment affect your relationships?
Great.
We've talked about a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
Are there more? Yes, of course. But those are 2 pretty profound ones. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's all I got for you today.
So,
That's a lot, actually.
it was a lot. And again, being mindful of those relationships, that's so important. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I keep saying we're going to try and make this shorter, but then we start talking. And
That's all right, though. That's all right. So, again, this was our third of 6 pillars. We'll be coming back in a couple of weeks again. So, thank you again, Donna. This has been just awesome. 3 weeks? 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
So, this has been just an amazing talk again. I'm enjoying these thoroughly. I hope our viewers are enjoying it. It's out there to be clicked on if you're clicking on it or watching it live. But thanks for viewing, and yeah,
3 weeks.
we'll close it out for now. So thank you and have a good night.
Thanks. Okay.